Hi. Today we'll be discussing 3 ways to unlocking the power of theory in your DNP project. Every DNP project or any project, a matter of fact, that is done correctly requires a theory. Two types, a change theory and a framework theory or theorist. All right. So one of the things that I notice with students, particularly DNP students, is that when they're writing up on the theoretical foundation for their project, they write about the theory, yes. For example, if we're talking about the Benner's model, they will tell you what the Benner's model is, novice to expert, when it was developed, when it was formulated, but that theory has no connection to their project. So in this video, we're going to discuss how to connect the theory to your project. All right. So before we go into the 3 ways, I want to discuss what is theory and why is it important to a project. A theory is a structured and systematic set of principles, concepts that explains, it predicts, and it describes a particular phenomenon. So the main purpose of theories are to provide a framework for understanding, organizing, and interpreting information, as well as to guide evidence-based projects like yours, research, and also analyze and use information to make decisions, important decisions. So the importance of the theory in a project can be summarized as that it provides a framework, it guides theory and QI projects, it also predicts outcome, it facilitates a problem solving. If you're having a problem in your clinical setting, theory can be used to facilitate the problem solving issue. It also enhances communication, it improves decision making, it fosters learning, it promotes innovation, and it also supports evaluation and assessment. So theory is needed. The point of this video is that I don't want you to think that you're just going to write upon a theory. You need to connect the theory to your project. So my name is Dr. Karen Danvers, and today we will be discussing 3 ways to unlocking the power of theory in your DNP project. So let's look at number 1. The first thing, and I've recorded other videos on selecting a project, selecting a title, writing a PICOT question. So please subscribe to my channel, look for those videos, and also watch them before watching this. So after you decide what you're going to do your project on, and you need to select a theory, that theory should be associated with your project in some sense. So I'm going to use the example of I'm conducting a project or implementing a new strategy to retain nurses, to move them from novice to expert, which is I'm going to use a residency program to do that. So I'm going to use a residency program that I'm implementing in a hospital setting. So knowing that, I'm going to look for what theory actually correlates with a residency program or implementing a residency program. You can use good old Google to find out because there are many theory that correlates. But after using Google to see which one correlates and which one fits, then you have to dive in the literature to get the evidence. So for my example, I'm going to use Benner's novice to expert theory. So I choose my theory, and that is the novice to expert theory. After choosing my theory, I want to make sure that I understand the theory. And so that's where it comes in that you have to do some reading. You have to do some background check. You need to understand the theory. And what you're looking for familiarizing yourself with the concepts, the principles, and the assumptions, because these concepts, principles, and assumptions is which you're going to build your program on. So you need to make sure that you understand that. So again, it is important to understand the core concepts, the principles, and the assumptions, because these are the factors that your program, your project is going to be built on. Now, let me talk about the concepts for the Benner's theory. There are 5 concepts that Benner spoke about. That's the novice or the beginner. And there's some explanation that's given about the novice, which they lack practical experience and they rely on rules and guidelines to perform their task. After the novice, then you have the advanced beginners. The advanced beginners, they gain some experience in nursing practice but are still at the early stage. So there are actually 5 concepts. So I talk about the novice already. I talk about the advanced beginner. Then we're going to talk about the competent nurse. And then we're going to look at the proficient nurse and then the expert nurse. Those are the 5 concepts for the Benner's theory. So understanding the assumptions of the theory will help you a lot in formulating the framework for your project. So in addition to the concepts, you also want to know the assumptions. The assumptions play a very important role as it relates to your project. So for example, for the Benner's assumption or the Benner's theory assumption, we're looking at experience as a fundamental. This assumption, Benner assumes that the experience is a fundamental component of skill development. Another assumption is that she assumes that nurses progress through a series of developmental stage. That is a skill development progression. Then clinical judgment evolves. That's another assumption. And she believes that the clinical judgment is not static, but it evolves as nurses gain experience. So you can see that this information is vital when formulating your project. So to summarize, number 1 is that you want to make sure that you choose a theory. After choosing the theory, you want to read about the theory, make sure you familiarize yourself with it. Then you want to identify the concepts and the assumptions. These are going to be fundamental for the building of your project. Number 2, develop a conceptual framework. So a conceptual framework is like the skeleton of what your project is going to build on, using the concepts that we discussed and also the assumption. So concept number 1, novice to expert progression. In this, the core concept of the Benner's theory is that the novice to expert is a progression field, and it serves as a framework for your project. So this progression illustrates how nurse resident evolved from novice with limited experience to expert with advanced clinical judgment. And so even understanding this can be something that you measure by the time they're finished with the residency in 6 months. Or did they move from novice to now an advanced beginner? So that could be something that you measure. Another thing, clinical experience. This is a framework we're developing now. Nurse residents can gain experience through hands-on clinical practice. So there's a variety of complexity of clinical practice or experiences that are key factors that influence skills development. This is another thing you can measure. How did their skill advance? You can use a tool to measure when they come in. You can do a pre and a post test to see what was their knowledge on inserting a Foley. And then in the middle of the project, you do another test, and then post, you can do another test, and you will see the progression of their skills. Mentorship and role model, which is often included in a residency program. In this, experienced nurse or mentors play a critical role in guiding and mentoring that novice nurse. So mentorship relationship is key when it comes on to the progression along with the novice to expert continuum, or on the novice to expert continuum. So you can consider, including a mentor in your residency program. So again, I'm using this as an example because your project could be about fall. So what theory aligns with falls? What are the framework that you're going to use as it relates to fall? It could be about using a digital device to notify patient about their appointment. So this will reduce the appointment cancellation but what framework are you going to use, or what theory are you going to use? So the theory help you map out a framework where you can actually start seeing your project developing. So it is very important. It's not just only writing about the theory, but knowing what the concepts are and what the assumptions are, and using those to build your framework so you can then build your project or create your project on those premises. So number 3, designing the project. So in designing the project, it will be much easier for you because you know what will be included, because you created a framework using the theory. And so with this, you want to see what methodology you're going to use. So I spoke about skills as it relates to residency. I spoke about mentorship. So you can decide what is it that you want to include in your residency. So what method are you going to use? Also, what data collection? And we know that because when we talk about measuring skills, is your progression in skills. So what data collection, and also what analysis tool, what tool you're going to use to analyze the data. That's very important. And getting the theory that's going to be used in the project will help you solve that. And you won't have to be guessing and, be lost. If you do this theoretical framework part correctly from the get-go, it will alleviate a lot of your questions, a lot of your stress, because by diving into the theory, you already start building a framework for your project. So every aspect of the project design is informed by the theory, every aspect. So if you do this part right, as I mentioned, you should not have any problem, or most of your problem will be alleviated, because as you go through, you will see how the theory connect to your project. So in conclusion, by following these steps, you can use theory effectively as a foundation for your project, ensuring that the theoretical framework informs every aspect of your project planning, implementation, and even evaluation. So this approach can lead to a more robust, a more theoretical grounded project that contributes to the knowledge and practice in nursing. So again, here are my references, and please pick up a copy of my book, PICOT Question Made Simple. It's on Amazon. I will put the link below. This book has tons of information, PICOT question, that you can use guide you in doing your project, and even give you some ideas of topics or projects that you can work on. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe and share this video. Thank you.